Good morning, social media breakfast, Madison. Friends, we are so glad that you're here with us today for our June event. Thank you so much for joining us online, and we are so excited about today. Let's go ahead and get started. If this is your first time with us, Social Media Breakfast is an organization. We are focused on education and networking. We meet the third Wednesday morning of each month, and we are virtual until we can be together again, and hopefully we will have updates for you on that in the coming months. If you haven't already, please connect with us on social media. You can find us on all the platforms. You can use the hashtag SMBMad to interact with us as well on all of those platforms. If you are interested in a scholarship, if you want to go to a conference or need some professional development, especially as things are maybe opening back up, maybe you have a new gig, please reach out to us. We would love to see what we can do to help you. smbmad.org/scholarships. Please say hello to our board. It is a great group of people. We work really hard to put this together for y'all, and everybody it's a fully working board. So we really do a lot to make sure that all of this comes together, especially in these times. It's been a whole extra set of challenges, but it's such a great group of people. And we are so thrilled to be welcoming two new faces to our board, Liz and Sarah. You will hear more about them in the coming months, but we are so thrilled to be expanding our board and to be welcoming some new faces to that team. We want to say today just a really quick but really important shout out to our friend Nick. This is going to be his last social media breakfast event with us, and Nick has been a part of our organization for a while and has been a face that you've probably seen if you've been at any of our in-person events. He was running live stream and he had cameras and all sorts of things. But during this pandemic time that we've continued doing our events, we truly could not have done this without Nick. He helped us pivot seamlessly to what you see now and what you see here in front of you today in a way that has allowed us to continue to bring content and great speakers right to you during some really turbulent times. So I just want to say on behalf of all of us at Social Media Breakfast, excuse me, a giant thank you to Nick just for all of his work. We're so grateful, and we will miss you, but we will see you around, I'm sure. So thank you, Nick. Also, if you'd like to get involved with Social Media Breakfast, we are always looking for great speakers. If you'd like to help become a team member in some sort of volunteer capacity or sponsor. And also we're always looking for great new nonprofit spotlights. All of that's listed there on that slide. But we'd love to work with you. You can go to our website, smbmad.org, to get a little more information about what that could look like and how you can get in touch with us. If you haven't already, please join our Facebook group. It's Social Media Madison Mastermind. It's quite a mouthful, but if you just if you just type it into, I guess you could Google it as well. If you just type it into the search bar of Facebook, it will pop right up. It is a really great resource for folks who are looking to ask questions or connect with others in the interim between Social Media Breakfast events. I would highly recommend that you seek that out and that you join because I think that the resources that are there and the connections that are there are really important. We announced this last month, but we wanted to take another quick second to just really give a shout out to our Digital Dream Grant recipients. We were able to, in partnership with Dream Bank, award 8 folks whose logos you see here on the screen. 8 organizations, some grant money to do some really amazing things in our community. So I just wanted to just give one more sort of shout out to them because we're so thrilled to be able to help them. And we can't wait to see what they do with the grant money. We're really excited, and we'll keep you posted as well on our channels. Next month, I know we're not finished with the day, we're just starting today, but just as a looking forward, next month, we are looking forward to having Faith Day here. She's going to be presenting on creating pro style videos on a budget. It's July 21st, so mark that down. It'll be the same time and place unless you hear otherwise. And we are really thrilled to be able to host her and have her speak with us next month. Also, I mentioned our board, but we really couldn't do this also without our sponsors. These people and these organizations really keep us being able to do what we do, not only at the quality and the caliber that we're trying to do it, but also to be able to offer it for free and to be able to continue to do these things that we do in a way that is really accessible and easily it's just easily accessible to you. So thank you so much to our sponsors. They are all wonderful. And in that vein, I'd love to bring on a few of them just to chat with you really quickly this morning. First and foremost, want to just mention them before, just their help with our Digital Dream Grant, but I want to welcome Andy from Dream Bank this morning. Hey, Andy.
Hey, David. Thanks so much. Happy to be here. And hello, everybody who's tuning in. My name, again, is Andy Frisky. I'm a senior dream curator at Dream Bank. And so I guess starting at the beginning, if we have any first-time viewers here, a little bit of context as to who we are and why we are here. So Dream Bank is a free community resource that is located in the heart of Madison, Wisconsin. We're right on the East Washington corridor in the Spark building. And we're put on by American Family Insurance, and everything we do ladders up towards the inspiration and pursuit of dreams. And in large part, that's done through the programs that we offer. So we host 11 event series in total, and right around 40 free events a month when we are in our brick and mortar location. We've been doing right around 25 to 30 free events a month virtually since the end of March in 2020. In the events range anywhere from small business and entrepreneurial workshops to Dream Big series, which is our inspiration, motivational wellness speaker series. You'll probably recognize a few folks if you have tuned into some of our events here today. I know David has spoke there. Don Stanley will be coming on here in a little bit, has spoken there before, just to name a few. But really wanted to talk about some exciting stuff. So again, everything is starting to open up a little bit more. That includes Dream Bank as well. We've gotten the go ahead to start going back into the space, kind of cleaning out the fridge and all of the other things that were left there, and getting it prepped and ready to open up. There hasn't been a confirmed time frame just yet, but we're taking this summer to make sure that everything is nice and crispy for our re-grand opening. And my guess would be end of Q3, maybe beginning of Q4 this year. And with that being said, we hope to see all of you back in person once everything is safe again for the social media breakfast get-togethers. With that being said, we have some other signature events that we've unveiled this year, in large part, one of them being our Dream Academy. So think of it, if you've attended some of our events, a little bit more in-depth than a standard event, almost like a masterclass, to where there's multiple events that span several weeks. Right now, the first one is run by John Zaratsky, and it is on time management. It is full, but we will be offering some other ones coming up this year. So take a peek at our social channels and our webpage for those future opportunities. And with that, I will kick it back to David.
Thank you so much, Andy, and thank you for the update on Dream Bank. Next, I'm gonna send it over to James from Powder Keg to talk a little bit about what they're doing. Hi, James.
Hey, David. Thanks for bringing me on. Hey, my name is James Roloff. I'm part of the team over at Powder Keg Web Design. We are a web design firm located just south of Madison and Verona. We are a professional custom website design firm. So we build custom websites, typically on WordPress. We have a team of in-house designers, developers, project managers. So we really love working with clients, especially marketing people that want to have a good, engaging website, want something custom, and want to have a good partner that's local. We've been working, speaking of partners, we've been working with Social Media Breakfast now, I think for 6-7 years. So quite a long time now. We really strongly believe in educating people, keeping them engaged, keeping them informed about digital marketing. So even though we just do websites and professional websites is our thing, we're a big part of the community too. So feel free to check out our website. We have our portfolio on there. We have our services on there. We also have an education section with our blog, our newsletter, some upcoming webinars too. So we look forward to seeing you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, James. And then last but certainly not least, in terms of our sponsor updates for this morning, I want to welcome Brian from Madison Area Technical College. We have a really cool partnership with them that he's going to tell you about.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, David. And good morning, Social Media Breakfast Madison. It's great to be here. As David said, my name is Brian Woodhouse. I'm the Vice President over Continuing Education at Madison College. And as some of you may know, Madison College is a huge supporter of Social Media Breakfast. We often have some of our faculty and staff attend the meetings. And I know at least a couple of times in the past, we have hosted events at our campus. And I certainly hope and expect that we'll be able to do that again in the very near future. So this morning, as part of our sponsorship for SMB, I am very pleased to offer an opportunity for 3 individuals to receive a scholarship for one class with us, either this summer or during our upcoming fall semester. So as part of our professional development portfolio, we do offer a number of marketing related courses, but also many other business topics. And our team has put together a listing of about 60 different courses that we thought might appeal to the SMB audience. The majority are online right now, but we are reintroducing more face-to-face options this summer and even more into the fall. So those options are listed on the flyer that we put together as well. And so again, yeah, we're super excited to be partnering with Social Media Breakfast as always. And if you're interested in a free class, please submit the online form that's found at the website to be considered. And we look forward to having a few of you in class with us over the next few months. So thanks for the partnership and appreciate being here today. Kick it back to David.
Thank you so much, Brian. And just to make sure that's explicitly clear on the slide there, folks, if you're interested, the website is listed. It's our website, SMBMad.org, and then it's /blog-Madison-college. And so if you are interested at all in this opportunity, please check that out. We would love to have you and appreciate Brian being here this morning to tell you a little bit more about that partnership. And then I'd like to also bring in my fellow board member, Hannah, to introduce this month's Nonprofit Spotlight.
Thanks, David. So this month's Nonprofit Spotlight is Wisconsin Youth Company, and they are located at Elver Park and Teresa Terrace neighborhood centers on Madison's southwest side. They provide children the opportunity to thrive beyond the school day. Programs include before and after school, 4K rap, summer camps, middle school U, Wander Wisconsin, and non-school days and break programs. Wisconsin Youth Company is an essential support for working families in 8 school districts across Dane and Waukesha counties. Their mission is to engage youth in opportunities that encourage them to live their best lives. You can find more information at wisconsиnyouthcompany.org, and we also have their social media channels up on the slide. And if any businesses are interested in getting involved or partnering to host a school supply drive or help kids gear up for back to school season, you can reach out to their fund development coordinator, Emily Wills, at ewills@wisconsиnyouthcompany.org. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah. And so we're about ready to start the main event with our friend Don this morning. But I just want to one quick note. We will be sort of, as you're watching the presentation, hopefully you'll be interacting with us on social media, on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're at. Please ask questions, send feedback. We will be monitoring those. And at the end of Don's presentation, I'll come back on and we will facilitate some of your questions and get to as many as we have time for. So please feel free to drop those in the comments. So we would love to get to those at the end. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Don, and I'm really excited to have him with us today. So it's all yours, Don.
All right. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I'm grateful to be a part of the Social Media Breakfast organization. I've been attending meetings for a long time. So this is a fantastic community, great people, great sponsors, great board members. So thank you all for what you do for our community, as well as we get ready to talk about a topic that I first started digging into back in about 2010, 2011. So probably before some of you were born. But what we're going to be talking about today is the idea of how to think about growing your business with inbound marketing. And I'm going to do a real high overview of the outbound. And when we think of the idea of what outbound marketing looks like, we think about this idea of talking at people. So the whole concept of inbound and outbound marketing is essentially the idea of you speaking at, whereas inbound is you helping and listening. So the idea with inbound marketing is that we want to be talking about this methodology of how do we attract people to our socials, to our website. Once we attract them and help them find us,
we want to engage with them. And how do we engage with them in meaningful ways as businesses, as individuals, searching for jobs, whatever it might be? A lot of times what we're talking about or we're thinking about is this idea of telling people what we want to hear. But the reality is social and the whole movement of social and the web has switched things so that people are wanting to be heard. So there's a whole great series of books on this. One of my favorite is a topic called Marketing Rebellion. You can also look at HubSpot or the Content Marketing Institute that I've done some work for. But the idea is that what people want is they want to be engaged in a meaningful way to them. And then what they want to do is once they're engaged, just like what we were talking about, James was talking about with the Powder Keg website, having educational material and entertaining material in some way that connects people and helps them learn and then delights them. So the basic methodology is we want to attract people, we want to engage them with something that's meaningful and valuable to them as well as to us, and then make the experience such that they become our promoters. They share out our content on the socials. They talk to their friends about what they've learned and what they've heard. So I've got a lot of interesting examples, great examples that we can go through it as we go along, but the fundamental concepts have been around for a while, but I just wanted to touch on those so that we can all have a baseline. And what we're going to do today as we go through talking about the social media component or the web component is hitting these 6 targets. So what's the fundamental starting point? Now, I've been lucky enough in my 10 plus years of doing this work to work with organizations that have literally had budgets of 0 and please help me out. I have no idea what I'm doing and I don't have money, up to companies that have had 8-figure budgets before the decimal point with inbound marketing. And I've worked with NBA athletes, NFL athletes, Nobel Prize winners, all different kinds of government organizations, literally have worked with organizations on all 7 continents. And what I'm always digging at is what are the fundamental core principles that work regardless of budget, regardless of the number of people that are available, regardless of whatever might be there. So the fundamental starting point is what we're going to hit first. And then how do we provide what people want from us? How do we start to get a sense of what it is? We know what we want to communicate. How do we know what they want? Then how do we use that content once we start figuring out what they want to help others find us and connect with us in this super noisy world, super insulated world as algorithms, put us in these little filter bubbles of us seeing things that are really, really narrow and we don't get exposed to a lot of things. What does that look like? And then how to know what help and information customers are looking for. So more specifically, what are they looking for that is going to go beyond us just getting found? How do we start engaging with them in meaningful ways? What are the ways that we can start to make them go from a stranger to somebody who's connected with us and then ultimately somebody who might become a fan of ours and a promoter? And then what can we do to pre-qualify? Because one of the things we want to do with inbound is we want to think of inbound not as a marketing strategy, but as a business and sales strategy. How do we make sure we're getting good fits of people who are actually likely to hire us, do business with us, connect with us, versus the people who are just looking around and really don't have interest, but can waste our time and energy? And then last is we all have limited times. We all have limited resources. So what do we do? What can we do? And I know there's been a lot of great presentations at SMB in the past about this, but what can we do to create something one time and get the maximum value out of that in terms of sharing as we go along? So those are our 6 targets. And really the core is what I see and work with organizations of all different kinds and all different sizes. What happens is they think of, I need to do inbound or I need to do social, whatever it is, because somebody said I need to do it. But really what you need to do is you need to start, as Stephen Covey said in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, what do you want? Start with the begin with the end in mind. So I would ask you if we were in person, this would, something that I often do is, why are you here? Why are you attending this? Whether you're watching the replay or you're attending live, you're obviously looking to get something out of this. So what is it that you're looking to get? And most often when I engage with businesses and do these workshops all over the world, what people are saying is, I'm looking to build better connections to grow my business, to grow my cause, to grow my university, to build my nonprofit base. If I'm a solopreneur, it might be to find new clients. If I'm a job seeker, it might be I'm doing inbound to find a job and make connections with good businesses. Whatever it is, you need to be thinking about that, because that's the driver. Inbound is just a vehicle to help us meet that end goal. If we don't have an end goal in mind, it becomes a time suck and a waste. And then what we want to be thinking about is, more specifically, what are we using social for? And I'm going to throw in web and email. Those will be implied. I'll mostly talk about social here, but those are implied as well. But really thinking about, why are we using these? If you're like me and you are easily sucked into going down rabbit holes, you got to be really conscientious. And sometimes what I'll do with myself and with my clients is say, okay, we're going to be doing stuff on social today. What's the purpose of what we're doing? We can't spend 30 hours on it because we have a lot of other things to do. So what are we doing? And then what outcomes are we looking for? That allows us to be thinking about, what do we do to measure our objectives? How do we know that we are getting value from what it is that we're doing? So what we do as this fundamental starting point is thinking about, how are customers or consumers using the web and social media? And there's often a big disconnect here. And then why are they using it? So when I talk with businesses or organizations, a lot of times they're like, well, we want people to know about us. We want people to buy from us or sign up for classes or whatever it might be. But what we need to be thinking about is, why are others using this? So for example, I'll often say, in the last year, last 6 months, last quarter, whatever you want to pick, why have you been on social? I have yet to have somebody say to me, well, I've been on social or the web to be marketed at more. I wanted to get unsolicited messages that I wasn't interested in. Usually what we think about these things that people are saying that they want. What they want is, they don't want to get sold to. They don't want to be talked at. What they want to do is to be helped and heard. And if you start digging into some of the data, what some of the data starts to show is what those reasons are. And I like to look at this because it reminds me that while I might think my business or organization or who I'm consulting might be important, or the work I do at the university is important, not so important to other people. So they've got other things going on. So when we think about this, I like to look at some data, and some data points start to talk about, why are people using the internet and why are they using social media? So this is from a study that is always published annually by Hootsuite. And if you go and look at it, it's the We Are Social. It's a free download. They talk about all different kinds of engagement with the web and with social media worldwide, and then by regions. But if you look at this, the reasons that people are using the internet, finding information is first. So this helps us see where inbound comes in, that if we can create content that helps show up in search and then provides valuable, helpful, useful, unbiased information, we can potentially stand out. But then you start looking at what people are looking for. I want to know what's going on with family and friends. So we have to remember, whatever we're doing social, whatever we're doing inbound for the web, what we're thinking about here is, we're competing in a space where people can go and learn about what's going on with family and friends, where they can go watch cat videos. If you're like me, I watch a lot of dog videos. So there's an entertainment component as well. You'll see keeping up to date with news and events. So all of these things are starting to give us clues on what we might be starting to think about as far as our inbound strategy. So if people are researching information, what information are they looking for that's related to our business, our organization, our services? Family and friends, maybe we can tap into that. Maybe we can become connected with them enough that they see us like some companies like Apple or other companies that people see have a really tight bond with. But that's a little bit hard to do. Then keeping up to date with news and events. This is a huge opportunity to start to become a resource for news and events that are relevant in our communities, or relevant in our communities physically, in terms of like local, like a Madison, or concept wise. So thinking of what's going on in the world of social media. And then the other one that's really important to pay attention to here is researching how to do things. So when it comes to the number one search on YouTube, as an example, the number one search that's typed in is how to, and then fill in the blank, how to do something. So again, this gives us an indication of what type of content could we be thinking about? Well, how to do different things so that what people have questions on. All of these are little clues. And then when we look at how people are using social, what we look at here is we see that staying up to date with news and current events. So nice overlap there. Now we get into that family and friends. So this is where it starts to get a little bit more challenging, because the next up too is fill up spare time. So they're not necessarily going to look to figure out how to do something. It's just like, I'm going to go on, I'm going to see what's going on, scroll through my phone, find a count or find a video that might entertain me or something that might be useful to take up some of my spare time. And then staying in touch with family and friends. So the reason that I'm showing these is you always have to have this connectivity between your social and your website. There's always this overlap of thinking, how can I make these two work together? And then throw email in as well. But how can I make these items work together? Inbound doesn't just fit website. It doesn't just fit social media. It doesn't just fit email. It's all across the board. So how can we make inbound a philosophy of what we do within our organization? Again, whether we're an organization of one or organizations that I've worked with that have literally had 50,000 employees. So when we look at this, one of the things that's most important to keep in mind is thinking about how do we see what we're sending out versus what our customers see what we're sending out to them. So marketer versus customer. So when it comes to creating marketing messages, 13% of messages marketers say are unsolicited. They say 13% of the time I'm sending out a message, that message is unsolicited by my customers. So they want what I'm sending out. If you ask people, and I'm not sure why there's a little misalignment on the screen, but bear with me, 85% of customers say the messages that they receive from companies and organizations are unsolicited. So stop and think about that. We think we're sending out great, helpful stuff. Customers are saying, I don't want any of this. So disconnect with what customers want. And this is a lot of what happens with outbound marketing. 81% of marketers say that the messages that they're sending out, email, website, social media, this is primarily social media data, are useful and helpful to their customers. You ask that same question of people who are seeing their content in feeds, and what they're saying is 84% of the customers are saying, this isn't helpful to me at all. So the idea here is we have this disconnect, and inbound is all about solving that disconnect. So how do we take this and how do we start applying it to what we want to do to improve our social? So we start by providing people what they want and what they're looking for. My favorite role model, I've got a couple of them, but my favorite role model for this is Brené Brown. I don't know if anybody else is a Brené Brown fan, but I'm a huge Brené Brown fan. Love her work, love what she does, and I think it's so great in so many of areas of our life. But she talks about this idea of empathy. Andy Crestodina, who's one of my favorite follows when it comes to inbound marketing, he's with Orbit Media out of Chicago. He says everything we do is driven by empathy. So we use data-driven empathy. So when people feel connected with, when they feel heard, when they feel listened to, when they feel helped, they are going to feel connection. And if you look at all of the data of millennials on down, and this even goes into some Gen Xer, people want businesses to hear them and be connected with them, not just commoditize them. So this is stuff that is building into the psychology of people and has been building into the psychology of people. Scott Monty, he shared this quote as a throwback. Scott was the digital marketing director for Ford Motor Company back in the day. He did some crazy cool campaigns. Scott is a great follow on the socials as well. And he shared this quote, which is, if you wish to connect with me or persuade me, you must think my thoughts. So think like me. You must feel my feelings. So what's going on in my world that you can be aware of to connect with me in a helpful way? And then you have to use language that makes sense to me. So if I'm talking to a group of marketers about, hey, I can help you with your CRO, you might understand, oh, okay, he's talking conversion rate optimization. But if I say that to a group of builders, I spoke at a building conference recently and there were 800 builders in the audience. They're like, what the heck is CRO? Instead, I say, let's figure out how we can use a website to help you shorten your sales cycle and increase the likelihood of you getting good customers, good prospects, and increase sales. So being cognizant, a lot of times people will do things with persona development. I'm going to give you 2 quick tips that I recommend as far as starting points. So some of you may have read this book. I don't know if anybody has. Love to see if anybody has. You can throw it out on the socials or in the chat. Read the book They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. It is a phenomenal book. Marcus is a friend of mine. I've known him since about 2010, 2011, and he has become one of the top thought leaders in the inbound world. And what I love about Marcus is that he is also a business owner. He was in a position where inbound literally saved his business, literally saved him from going bankrupt. So while I appreciate that a lot of us are marketers, his whole business was on the line and he had to figure out, how does inbound literally impact my bottom line? How does it help me save my company? How does it help me pay my employees? And They Ask You Answer he now co-owns Impact Branding. Phenomenal book. The other thing, and this is something that became a habit and is very easy to train yourself to do as a habit, is anytime a person asks a question, anything related to your product, services, or industry, not necessarily about your individual business, but the product, services, and industry, you want to capture that and you want to answer that. Yes, other people have probably answered the question, right? But when you give your perspective and your philosophy on how to answer that question, you start to differentiate. If you look at and think about that stat, 62%, the number one reason people use the internet is to seek out information. How do people do their searches, whether it's on social or on the web? They say, what are the best XYZ to get? What are the problems with XYZ service? Should I build a WordPress website or a Wix website? Should I use Facebook marketing or Instagram marketing? So whenever a customer or client asks you a question, you want to capture that. Empathy is about not assuming people know what we know. And that's a big mistake I used to make. It's called the curse of knowledge. I assumed that everybody knew what I knew. I didn't know that, my field isn't that special. And I assumed, of course, everybody knows about, Instagram Reels and TikTok, but of course they don't. So don't assume that the questions that you're getting asked are too basic for you to answer. That's really, really critical. What I do with my clients then is I will say, hey, that's a great question you just asked about. Should you be using Facebook or should you be using Instagram? I tell you what, I'm going to give you an answer right now, but if you go to my LinkedIn page or you go to my website, I have a couple of articles there too that you might want to read after we talk, and you can go and you can check out the answers to those questions to help you out. The other thing you can do is you can say, hey, somebody just asked me, should I be using Instagram stories or should I be posting in my Instagram timeline? I'm going to do a little research. I'm going to figure out and create a piece of content around that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that out with that person. So usually I'll ask for an email or social media handles to share it out. And then I will post that and say, hey, recently I was asked about whether or not Instagram Reels or Instagram Stories, or Instagram Timeline is the best use of your time. I did some research and here's what I found. So it gives me an opportunity to show my clients as well, or the clients that I consult, that they're always working at being helpful and they're always trying to be relevant. So they're listening. So the customer knows is that not just giving us lip service that they care about us, they're actually putting in the time and energy and resources to help us. So starting out with that, there's more, and I can share a lot more with any of these, but I want to give you starting points of what you can do to kickstart. And again, we can talk about this more in the discussion, but those are kind of the two top. You can also go into building personas and persona development. But number 3 is, how do you use content then to help others find you? Well, we kind of answered that, right? We answered that people are searching for information. We answered that people are looking for insights. The problem is most organizations that I work with, when they're using inbound on social and the web, is they say, people are looking for the top seed provider or the top pool company. Let's pick pool company because that was what Marcus Sheridan did. They're looking for the top pool company. So let's write an article about that. And the article that they write or the social media content that they post is, hey, we're the best. We only sell the best pools. We're better than anybody else. The problem with that is that content might help when people are doing, who are the swimming pools to consider in the Madison, Wisconsin area. But the problem is when they start to read that language, is there a company that says, we're pretty good. We're not that great. No, everybody says they're the best. So what happens to a customer or a consumer or somebody viewing that content is they're like, this person thinks they're great and they're not being helpful. They're selling me rather than helping me. So what we want to do, and I'll dig into this in a little bit as we get further along too, is how this looks is, what are the ways we can provide honest, helpful answers to people? What are the ways that we can say, hey, we sell this kind of product and we do only WordPress websites. WordPress websites we love because of these reasons, but there might be other tools you want to use and explore, and here's why. If somebody comes and sees that you sell WordPress websites, but you're educating them onto their different options of what they could be doing, what that does is that engenders trust. That starts to say, hey, this person's thinking about, what if somebody doesn't have a $20,000 budget? What if they have a $2,000 budget? I might not work with companies that only have a $2,000 budget, but if I put something on the website that says, hey, if you have a small budget, we're not the right fit for you, but here are some things you can do. And then I share those out on the socials. What ends up happening is people start to see that I am looking out for the best intention, or my customers are looking out for the best intentions of their customers. And what that does is that allows me to start engendering that trust and showing that there's empathy that I'm providing and connecting. And people are looking for that. I have done this on a number of occasions where I've turned people away by saying, I'm not a good fit for you. And here is why. And they, first of all, try to figure out how they can be a fit, because they're like, you're the first company or the first business that's ever said that to me. What, you don't want my business? It's like, well, I don't want your business because I'm not the right fit for you. I want what's best for you. So secondly, they appreciate it. And a lot of times, a couple of years later, I'm actually working on a big project like this now. 3 years after I turned a company down, they're now in a position where they can better utilize my services because their budget and their resources have expanded. So although it sounds counterintuitive sometimes, what does helpful and honest look like? It's telling people when something is a good fit and when it's not a good fit. And as simple as that sounds, a lot of companies and organizations don't do that. They just talk about, hey, here's the benefits of what we have. Here's why we think we're the best. Here's why we think we're so cool. And what ends up happening is when you're a customer, that's not helpful. That's salesy. Then we start thinking about, how do we know more specifically what help and information our customers are looking for? And there's a ton of different strategies that you can leverage with this. We talked about the idea of just simply listening. So when I'm coaching companies or organizations, what I do is I say, let's sit down with your sales team and let's ask them, what are the questions they most commonly ask? If those questions are being asked, most of the time, people are going to do a web search first before reaching out to a salesperson or filling in a form where they have to put in their email. Why? Because they're afraid that if they reach out to a salesperson or they reach out to a person via an email form, they're going to start getting spammed with sales messages. So what people do is they go online and they do searches to try to find out who the best products are, who the best companies are, what the best fits are, so then they can figure out what works for them. Well, what are they looking for? How do we know more specifically what to look for? So in addition to asking the people who are part of the organization in sales, marketing, presentations, whatever, the other thing I do is here are a couple of other options that I use. The first one is to simply use Google Suggests. So I'll show you an example of each of these and how I use them. The other are, I use two free Google Chrome plugins with my clients to start to get a sense of what are the things that are being asked that we don't know are being asked. What are the pieces of information that people are looking for more specifically that we haven't thought about? So the two that I like to use, and I'd love to see if anybody wants to share what they use, if they have any other suggestions, that would be great. Keywords Everywhere is one Google Chrome plugin that I use. The other is Uber Suggests. And these tools I use with Chrome because Chrome is the most popular web browser. So let's dig into an example. So let's say, for example, I'm thinking about getting a dog. When I think about getting a dog, we can start to guess at what some of those searches are. But what you can do is you can go into Google and you can start typing in the Google search bar best dog breeds or dog breeds. And what ends up happening is Google, when you start to type in, and this works really well for web marketing, for your website marketing as well, what it's going to do is it's going to show you the most common related searches to what you just started typing. So it's going to auto fill in what are the searches that people are putting in. So best dog breeds for kids, best dog breeds for apartments, best dog breeds for first-time owners. All of this is telling me, based on Google data, that these are being searched at a volume that I would want to consider thinking about creating answers for that. Hey, if you're in Madison, Wisconsin, and you're a college student, what are the best dog breeds for apartments? Hey, if you're a cat person and you're looking to adopt a dog, what are the best breeds for if you have a cat? So you can go through these, and what I do is I sit down and I collect this with my clients or with my team, and we start looking at this, and then we look at what's most likely to be asked by our clients, and then B, what are the pieces of content we might already have answers for that we can create. Each of these can then become an article on our website, and it can also become something that we share out on social. Hey, this month we're going to be doing a series of Facebook posts about what are the best dog breeds for kids, and each week we're going to feature 2 different dog breeds. You know, you can do something like that. So thinking of the idea of building a campaign around that. Now, also with Google, what you can do is if you go to the bottom of the Google search, you will see, as you scroll down, put that search in, you'll see people also ask. And this is more recommendations from Google. Sometimes there's going to be an overlap with what we just saw with the autofill, but this says, hey, these are other questions you as a searcher might want to ask, but as a communicator for all of us as marketers or salespeople, whatever it is we're doing, this also gives us an indication of additional nuanced versions of the questions that people could be asking. And then finally, if you scroll down even a little bit further, you'll see this. And these are the other suggestions. And so you're going to potentially see some overlap, but you're also going to, and if you see overlap, that's a good indication of what you could be creating for your socials and what you could be creating for your website as well. So that's just straight up simple Google research, Google search. Again, there's tons of great tools that can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, but this is the way that I always start out all of my clients. The next thing that I look at is, let's say I'm typing in that search, best dog breeds. What I'm going to do if I have the keyword tool installed, what it's going to do is it's going to show me people also search for. So this is similar to what we just saw, but another data point. And then we also see this thing called long tail keywords. So long tail keywords, for those of you who are unfamiliar, what it is it's a longer search query. So instead of saying best dog breed or dog breeds, it's putting in more content to make the search more specific. So some of the other long tail keywords that show up. So if I want to, instead of just highlight big dog breeds, these are showing me, again, there's some overlap, but then there's also some new ones: small dogs, hunting dogs, best small dog breeds, family dogs, guard dogs, big dogs, service dogs, medium dogs. So again, this helps me to get a sense of what type of content I can be creating and what I can be sharing that's going to get value on social and on the web. And then last, I'm going to show the Uber Suggests. And this Uber Suggests, what this is this is similar. So I'm using these three tools to kind of pinpoint and triangulate the content that I might want to create, or my team might want to create, my client might want to create. This does have a paying version. I always use the free version because I do work with a fair number of nonprofit organizations, and so startups where budget is an issue. So you can dig into more, but I will start with this, and you'll see that you can export this as a CSV file if you want. So a lot of times what we'll do with the clients is we'll create a single CSV document where we take what we saw on the Google search from the keyword planner, and then Uber Suggests. We'll put it all in a document, and that's how we'll track what we should be creating, what we should be talking about. So I don't know why India keeps showing up. That's a really interesting one. So for me, obviously these searches are going to be more specific to you and your platform. So it is always interesting to see what some of the searches are, but again, it gives you at least a sense of what to be thinking about. You can always use an incognito browser, or I also will have like you can use a browser that you only use for this search to try to keep it as clean of a search as possible. So then how do we work to pre-qualify our clients? We've got a sense of who our audience is and what we're trying to achieve. We got a sense of where they're looking and what they're searching, and we're getting some specificity on what those searches are. But the reality is not everybody is going to be the best fit for us. Sometimes they're not going to have the money. Sometimes they're not going to have the resources as far as people or time. Sometimes there's going to be various challenges. And our goal with social, when I'm working with my clients and with my students, our goal with social and our goal with our website is to use that as our initial sales contact to pre-qualify and find out whether or not we are a good fit for a potential customer, and that potential customer is a good fit for us. So whether it's the department that I teach at the UW-Madison, whether it's selling some dog services, whatever it might be in the B2B world, B2C world, the B2G world, business to business, business to consumer, business to government, doesn't matter. These all apply. And these all come from Marcus and the ideas and concepts, and they ask, you answer. So what you want to make sure that you talk about when it comes to content, not only for your website, but also for your socials, are these items. And the more you can talk about them honestly and openly and transparently, the better your inbound strategies are going to work. The better they're going to help pre-qualify and pre-filter. So first example is cost or price. How much does something cost? And the answer to that question, that's the one that most companies are like, Don, well, I don't want to publish our prices. I don't want to talk about that because, we just don't want to do it. And I'll say, well, why is that? The two most common answers are A, because we don't want our competitors to know how much we're charging, and B, we don't want to scare away people who can't afford us. And I'll say, let's stop and think about those two questions or those two concerns. So they're valid, but let's talk about them. Number one, do you have any sense of what your competitors are charging? 99 out of 100 times my customers say, yes, I do. And I'll say, okay, so you have an idea of what they're charging, but you think they don't have an idea of what you're charging? come on. The reality is they have a sense. So secondly, when it comes to those businesses, they're not driving the impact. They're not buying from you. So get away from competition focused as your primary and think customer focused. Next is, what if people can't afford our services? Well, that's what you want to do. If somebody comes into a car lot and goes to a brand new car lot and starts looking at trucks and they have $5,000 that they can spend on a car or a truck, they can waste a salesperson's time because new trucks don't come close to $5,000. They're way more than that, right? So the idea of what do you want to be doing with cost and price is you want to be giving people some ideas of how much something is cost. So for example, with Marcus with his swimming pool company, the number one question people would ask and still ask to this day is, how much does an in-ground swimming pool cost? And the answer is, it depends. Just like buying a car, it depends on these variables. How big is the vehicle? What style do you want? What features do you want? What do you want new or do you want used? All of those come in. So whenever you're doing inbound stuff with cost and price, you want to say, here's how much a web design could cost. And here are the things that impact the prices. You can do it really cheap or free using a Wix or whatever, but what you're going to be missing out is XYZ. You can do it at this price point, and what you're going to be getting is this, and what you're going to be missing out. And you can do it at the price point we charge, where yes, you're going to be paying more, so that's your pain point, but what you're also going to be getting is X, Y, and Z. So that's one thing. The next is problems. So what are the problems with something like your product or service? What are the problems with marketing on Facebook? If any of us in here are Facebook marketers, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch, it's reach, right? So when people say, oh, marketing on Facebook is free, just jump on and, people will sell it that way. Well, that's not really true. There's a lot of problems with the algorithms and with our reach. So what we do next is we sit down and we say, what are the top 5 problems and solutions to those problems? So what are the top 5 problems with dog training? What are the top 5 problems with video marketing? What are the top 5 problems with going to a big university? Whatever it might be, list those out and then provide solutions. Comparisons are really, really good. And I kind of talked about those already, but comparisons, the example Marcus gives in that book, They Ask You Answer, is he sells fiberglass swimming pools. Fiberglass swimming pools are one type of swimming pool. There's fiberglass, concrete, and vinyl. And what was happening was that Marcus and his team were originally saying, hey, fiberglass pools are the best. They're the greatest thing in the world. But customers would say, yeah, but I've been doing research and I read about concrete pools and I read about vinyl pools. Can you tell me about them? No, you don't want those. They're terrible. Ours is the best. So the person would then go talk to a vinyl pool salesperson, and the vinyl pool salesperson would say, same thing, right? Vinyl's the best. Fiberglass, a bunch of junk. Concrete, a bunch of junk. And then they would go and they would ask the same question of somebody who sells concrete pools or do research. Concrete pools are the best. Fiberglass and vinyl, they stink. What ends up happening is, because everybody's talking about their product only in the positive, is that customers lose trust because they know there are problems. They know there are comparisons. They know what are the options that they have available. When is it the right time to buy a fiberglass pool versus a concrete pool? Doesn't make it. And if you're able to share the advantages and disadvantages of best options of what to do, it is incredible how often we can repeat sharing that content. So when this goes on your website and you create an article on your website, the way that I teach my clients, guess what? Every spring in the United States, people are going to start looking for swimming pools. So guess what? Every spring, we're going to share out on the socials best advantages and disadvantages of concrete, then another advantages and disadvantages of vinyl, advantages and disadvantages of fiberglass. So the idea is we can cycle that content to be shared on calendars on the socials as well. Reviews, giving unbiased reviews of the different products. So in the pool example, what's better, chlorine or salt water? This type of cleaning pump, that type of cleaning pump. What type of video camera is the best if I'm going to start doing my own YouTube marketing? Should I post in the stories? Should I post in the feed? Whatever it is that's relevant to you. And then last is what's the best of. So what are the best tools to be using, and why do you recommend those? So again, giving people that education to help them see you can provide value beyond just talking about your product or service. Now, what I always do to help pre-qualify as well is on websites, I recommend that my clients have something like this or similar to this. Have a section on your website that says problems we solve. So when somebody visits your website, finds you via search, they can go to that tab, and that tab gets a lot, on most of the clients, it gets a lot of visits. And you say, hey, if you're a company that is a marketing company and you're looking at how to better use your website, we're the right fit for you. So Powder Keg might say that, versus they might not be the best fit for a company that is doing intensive research in nuclear energy. Right? So you can say, if you are looking for a website in the marketing world, we're a great fit. If you're outside the marketing world, we're not so much of a fit. Or if you're looking to figure out, is your website providing value for you? Because you don't know, you've paid somebody to do it. That's a problem we solve. If you have another problem of, you know, your website is dated, but you don't know what to do to make it valuable and ongoing and worth the most bang for your buck. Whatever it might be, again, be thinking about what fits your industry. But this is it's been a phenomenal asset and resource, both on websites and then being shared on social media. If you're B2B, it's also super, super valuable as articles on LinkedIn as well. And then last but not least, the idea of how to create once and share many times. And when I'm working with clients, we look at, okay, the clients are the content experts. I need to help extract the content out of them. Ideally, we know our customers are going to be in lots of different places. Potential customers are going to be in lots of different places. So how do we make content that can go on our website, on social media, email, any other channels? So the strategy that I use is this. So first, what we do is I work with my clients where we record the video with answers to questions. So I'll sit down and let's pretend that Andrew Frisky is he's the content expert and we're talking about DreamBank. Instead of me trying to write something, I'm going to sit down with Andrew and I'm going to say, Andrew, I'm going to interview you. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about DreamBank. Cool? Cool. Sit down and record those. And I actually do a lot of these over Zoom. So they don't have to be super sophisticated. You want to learn about how to do them better next month with Faith. Watch, she's got awesome tips and insights, great experience, but starting out basic. We record those answers and now we have a video. Typically what we'll do then is we'll funnel that video onto YouTube. Next, what we do is we take snippets of that video, and let's say it's a 15-minute video answering different things about DreamBank. We will take those snippets and individual answers will be broken out. So instead of one long 15-minute video, we'll have individual snippets that we can use. Kind of like little movie trailers that say, hey, if you want to learn more about DreamBank, you watch the short video, but if you want to learn more about DreamBank, go and watch the full interview with Andrew. Then what we do is we transcribe that. And what we're looking for as we transcribe it, there's a variety of different transcription services you can use. We're looking for what can we use as social media content? Can we use something as a tweet, as a headline for a Facebook post, Instagram post? Could we potentially use something in another way and make that a post? But then can we also create a longer form article that goes on our website? You can think about this more strategically for different things like TikTok and Snapchat as well. And then finally, what we do is we take that video that was recorded, we extract the audio, and if we want to, we can make a podcast or get snippets of podcasts. DP Knudten does this a lot with his Instagram posts, where he has snippets of podcast interviews he does that are really, really good examples of how to put little snippets of a interview on in audio format. So now what I've done is I've got my website covered, I've got social media covered, I've got long form of content covered, and I've got a lot of social media snippets that I can use as well. So I look to pull those out as far as I want to create once, I want to get Andy's time one time, and then I'm going to extract as much from that interview of my content expert. And that could be a salesperson on my team, that could be a research and development person on my team, whoever it is. I'm going to get them to sit down with me that once, help answer that question, help me get the expertise that we can then provide maximum value on our social and our website. And then the last but not least is, if you want to, I'd recommend another book called Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer. So Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer, really good read. Mark's got another great book that just came out called Cumulative Advantage. But the reality is, if you look at the data, and Mark talks about this in his book, Marketing Rebellion, companies that are being more human are the one, and there's this big trend and shift in terms of how customers are going to expect companies to work with them, whether they're companies of one or a company of 1,000, 10,000. The companies that are most human and treat people as humans are going to win. It's not the most savvy strategic companies. It's the ones that have that empathy backed up with quality products and services. So that's what I've got for y'all today. I'm happy to take questions and however we want to roll from here.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Don, for all of that great information. We do have a few questions. We've got a couple minutes, so I thought we could just kind of roll through a few of them.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So Kathy asks, from your experience, do potential customers look at FAQs the same as they would if there was a problems we solve section? To them, are they similar, or is it best to have both?
I always do it as a problems we solve. That tends to resonate more. Andy Crestodina has a great article about this on his blog at Corporate Media about why not to have a frequently asked questions section. But typically what you want to do is, I have the problems we solve, or you could call it how we help people. Then what I do is I will take specific questions and put those on different pages. So let's say, for example, I have part of my website services are Facebook marketing, and the other part of my services is YouTube marketing. On my web page that talks about my Facebook services, I'm going to put a couple of those questions. So you can either go and look at the whole problems we solve page, or if you go to the Facebook page, you're going to see questions that are problems we solve just about Facebook. If you go to the YouTube page, then it's going to be YouTube specific. It isn't going to be everything. So putting those in context is a strategy to extend, but typically the problems we solve resonates more than frequently asked questions. And it seems to just be like a psychological, like people feel like that you're understanding them better, and it's less generic. But again, Andy Crestodina has a really good article. In the web design class I teach at UW-Madison, Andy's book, which is called Content Chemistry, is required reading. So that's a really good article to read, because he specifically touches on that.
Great. So what are some other, another question, what are some other inbound marketing tools that you would recommend for organizations, besides HubSpot and Google, obviously? Are there any other tools that you use or that you like that you would recommend?
So a couple that I use Agorapulse primarily with my socials. Sprout Social is a really good one as well. HubSpot does have a free version, so a lot of times I'll start people out with that. The problem and the challenge with that, and I love HubSpot, I got involved with them really early in the process. It gets really expensive really fast, and that's the part where it becomes a non-starter for a lot of people. So Sprout is one that I like as well. So that's, and I can look through a couple of others that I use, but those are the ones off the top of my head. You can always, again, start out with the HubSpot free. I'm always experimenting with what are the best cheap to free options, just because, again, when I'm doing my work with nonprofit organizations in particular, there's limited budgets, and I'm working with a Starbucks, budget, who cares, right? But
right.
For smaller and startups, that's something to be cognizant of. I know that if you're a smaller or startup company, like I do work with Generator and G Beta here in Madison, And HubSpot and some of these companies do have discounts for organizations. So you could look into that if they're startups. So.
Okay, great. Thank you for that tip. Another question, besides some of the folks that you mentioned, could you recommend some other people in the field that you look to as experts for inspiration or for further education that you really like?
Yeah, so Andy Crestodina is a huge one. Andy's a great, oh my gosh, he's a great guy, super smart. Marcus Sheridan, as I mentioned already, as far as inbound, Content Marketing Institute has some really good stuff. Jay Bear with Convince and Convert has some really good content. Those are kind of my wheelhouse starting points. And if none of these work for anybody, by the way, feel free to tweet me, message me, whatever. I'm happy to share the resources. But those are the ones that I tend to start people out with.
Okay, yeah. That's great. Thank you. We got a couple more and then we'll wrap up. Corinne asks, how often do you recommend doing a keyword check? Monthly, quarterly? What do you think?
Oh, that's a really good question. I like to do it monthly. Most clients will actually do it quarterly to fit into their, because, as a marketer, you want to do everything all the time. And they're like, well, we've got 50 other things going on. Well, pay attention to, let's touch base on a quarterly basis. The best strategy, though, that I've experienced, and there's great tools that are get expensive, like SEMrush and tools like that can help with search. SEMrush, by the way, has some good, I think it's Moz is the one that has some good inbound stuff as well. But SEMrush, you can use a tool like that, but it starts to get expensive. My primary is I train. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll come into a company, I'll do a workshop for everybody and help them understand how inbound helps drive everybody's bottom line. And then we work to say, hey, if anybody gets asked a question, make sure to send that question to our marketing manager or collect it in some way. Those questions are the most valuable to have, because then you have the specificity for your actual customers and questions they are asking. And then the monthly check on the keywords or quarterly check. Quarterly is more realistic for most people. And the reality is, in most fields, they don't dramatically change. So quarterly tends to work.
Okay, great. Last question before we wrap up. Just had a question about if you're able to or willing to share, one or two of your favorite success stories of folks that you've worked with or clients or anything.
Oh yeah. So I got a couple of examples. Marcus has some great ones, the pool company, but one of my favorite examples, I was working with a custom home builder in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And the custom homes that they build start between $500 to $1 million. And so when you're thinking about that, you're thinking of a very long decision process. It's not like, hey, let's go buy a $500,000 home. You can do that with a phone, or you can do that with a gaming system or something like that, but you're not going to do that with a home. So at first they were fairly skeptical of the process. And what we started to do is we started to put these questions together and started telling anybody who would reach out, hey, building a home is a big deal. Yes, I'm willing to talk to you right now, but on our website, we have a whole bunch of resources to first make sure we're the right builder for you. And secondly, make sure you can ask the questions of any builder you want that are going to help you get what you want. And one of the comments, so we started doing that. And one of the comments initially from somebody inside the company was like, our web traffic hasn't dramatically increased. We're not getting a ton of questions. I've seen an uptick, but I haven't seen a huge uptick. And the reason was there isn't a huge volume of search in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for custom home building, right? So nationally there might be, but we were thinking regionally. So one of the articles talked about the top 5 questions to ask and why you need to ask them. And it ended up getting like 50 views. And at first, so sometimes people think numbers are the point, but one of those 50 views ended up filling out the form for the company. One of those 50 views not only filled out the form, but came in and had a conversation, and then one of those 50 views ended up buying a $750,000 home from them. So did inbound work in that case? Yes, it did. So I've got these other examples I can share of like people buying millions of pools or whatever, but sometimes that depends on what it is that you're looking for. So I've got examples with my students as well, and I'm happy, again, message me. I'm happy to create some content on this. Students getting job opportunities when they were searching for jobs or new career changes and transitions. One of my favorite fun ones to work with back in the day, if anybody is a Badger basketball fan, was Frank Kaminsky. He was a student of mine. He was the National Basketball Player of the Year, and we worked on building his brand while he was still in college so that he could get a bunch of endorsement opportunities, and we used him. So I've got a ton of stories that I'd be happy to share. So if you want to hit me up and let me know if you're looking for a particular field or industry, whatever, I am 1,000% happy to help anytime.
Well, thank you so much, Don. You can see on the screen, or you were able to see on the screen there for a bit, Don's contact information. So please do reach out. As he said, if you have any additional questions or thoughts, I know he'd love to hear from you. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in this morning and for watching. Thank you, Don, for your time and for your expertise. Thank you, Nick, once again, for just your service to the organization. We're so grateful for you. And we're so excited about next month. With Faith. Please put that on your calendars and plan to join us for that conversation. And until then, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.